I really came on this show last week and talked about how despite losing back-to-back games against the Cowboys and the Bears, I talked about how Jalen Hurts hasn't been doing bad this season when it came to his average completion percentage, air yards, rushing touchdowns, and most notably, his interceptions. Specifically, how few he has thrown through Week 13. Then, this fucking game against the Chargers happened, and I just don't even know what to say or do anymore at this point. This was a must-win game in the eyes of a lot of Eagles fans, including myself, and once again, this team just disappoints us. We are like parents being like, we're not mad, just disappointed when the kid royally fucks up after a couple of minor fuck-ups. The kid is this Eagles team right now. That was the most disgusting, embarrassing, sloppy, utterly dog shit game I have ever seen from our quarterback. To go and defend Jalen Hurts the week before, for him to then put on a 5-turnover performance like that, it's a fucking gut punch. And I know he's not outright doing that shit on purpose or like it's personal to me by any means at all. It kind of feels like it though. We'll recap this ugly ass loss along with my updates on what's wrong with this offense, along with some Eagles news and what we have to look forward to going into Week 15. Without wasting any more time, let's dive right into it. What's up, y'all, and welcome to 2nd and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast powered by Old City Sports Network, the best network for all your Philadelphia sports needs. This is your host, Michael Roscoe. This game, I legit thought that I was going to fucking throw up from how vile it was. That was, without a doubt, the absolute worst game, statistically, physically, emotionally, however the hell you want to look at it. The worst game I have ever seen out of Jalen Hurts. He just gave all the Hurts haters even more evidence to their ideas that Jalen is a horrible quarterback. And after that performance, I don't know how I can defend that one. He went 21 for 40, which is a 52.5% pass completion rate for 240 yards, 0 TDs, 4 interceptions, and a lost fumble, while recording 4 carries for a measly 8 yards. He also became the first player since, at the very least, 1978, according to Elias Sports Bureau. That's when they officially recorded research on this specific stat. The first time a player has committed 2 turnovers on the same fucking play. Because after he threw an interception to Deshaun Hand, he fumbles it and Jalen Hurts recovers it, but then he gets hit and fumbles it, which is recovered by the Chargers defense again. Hurts could have opened up a bakery after that game with the amount of turnovers that he had. A truly awful game that we can only hope to forget, but one that'll haunt the birds and this fan base for a long, long time. But hey, just a reminder, anytime a Chargers fan wants to bring up this game, just go ahead and remind them that Justin Herbert threw 4 interceptions to lose the playoffs. Anyway, before we dive into the takeaways of this game, let's talk some Eagles news. Starting off, we have a roster move as the Eagles have waived long snapper Cal Adomitis, as the Birds have opened up the practice window for their original long snapper, Charlie Hewlett, who spent significant time on IR since, I want to say, week 4, due to a neck injury. And at first, I was like, maybe we should have kept Cal because of how injury prone Charlie Hewlett can be. I think he's been injured twice this season already. But then I saw interesting stats on X. In a tweet from Brandon Lee Gouton, a reporter for the Eagles, he tweeted 2 key stats comparing the team with Charlie Hewlett versus with Cal Adamitis. With Hewlett, the Eagles are 4-0 versus 4-5 with Adamitis, and I think that one is safe to say that you can take it with a grain of salt. But this next one is very peculiar. With Charlie Hewlett, Jake Elliott has missed 0 field goals. But with Cal Adamitis, he has missed 6. Is this a telling sign or just pure coincidence? Something to think about there. Nonetheless, Cal did step up when we needed him as a long snapper. He made a couple of good tackles, and we thank him for his contribution to the team. Best of luck to you in your next adventure. All right, let's dive into the takeaways from this Week 14 game. The first one is that our quarterback has had an awful 5-week stretch, with this past week being the worst. Again, last week I talked a lot of positive things about Hurts from an overall season standpoint, and those stats are still true, and he still has shown that he can be clutch when it matters the most. However, over these last 5 weeks, he's been awful. And I hate saying that because I feel like myself and a lot of other Eagles fans have spent the past couple of seasons since the 2023 collapse defending him, but it's true. He has been bad lately. I don't want to say that he's a bad quarterback, but rather that he's a good quarterback playing terrible football. There is a difference. To put into perspective, in the first 8 games of the season, Jalen Hurts had an average pass completion rate of 71.2%, 15 passing touchdowns, 1 interception, and only 1 lost fumble. And his longest pass completion was 80 yards. In the last 5 games, his pass completion average is at 57%, with 4 passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and 3 lost fumbles, and has not had a completion of more than 41 yards. He's just been bad. He's playing like ass, and I'm not sure what the fucking problem is. And for those who are going to go and say, oh, he's always been bad, you're fucking wrong. He's had bad moments, but he's been one hell of a quarterback. We haven't had a quarterback on the Eagles to get us to 2 Super Bowls within 3 years with different play callers every single year, and to win one of those Super Bowls while being the MVP and outplaying Patrick Mahomes in both of those Super Bowls, who is considered a generational talent before we got Jalen Hurts. So the argument that he's always been bad is just dumb and incorrect. What is accurate, though, is that Hurts has been playing terrible these last 5 games. And even the biggest Jalen defenders cannot deny that. I don't know what he needs to do to turn things around, but I just don't want to hear any more Instagram quotes, and he's just got to get it together. Next takeaway I have from this game, A.J. Brown is getting his targets, and it's actually hurting the team. A.J. Brown's had 100 plus receiving yards and 3 total touchdowns in the Birds' last 3 games. So, awesome for him, but guess what? We lost all those games. This is a perfect example of that like comic meme or whatever, where the guy gets the golden medal, he pops the champagne, bites the medal, and then in the last pick, it's him at the bottom of the totem pole with like fucking 11 other people ahead of him. That's what this looks like right now. In a previous episode, I spoke about how A.J. Brown has the right to advocate for himself for feeling like he's not part of the offense and believing he needs to be more involved in the offense for the team to succeed. And I still believe he is well within his right to do so. However, just because you have the right to do so doesn't mean you can do so and not expect consequences. In the last 4 games since the Detroit Lions game, we saw an uptick in A.J. Brown's targets, with 10 or more targets in each one of those games. And to put in perspective, in the previous 9 games before that, he only had 1 game with 10 or more targets. In those previous games with less than 10 targets, the Eagles went 7-2. In the 4 games with 10 or more targets for A.J. Brown, the team went 1-3. Now, I'm not directly saying there's any causation or correlation, but it's something interesting to ponder on. Also, it makes you look a little silly when you publicly complain and beg for more targets only to disappoint like hell in the last game with them CeeDee Lamb hands. Too many crucial drops to be talking about wanting the ball to improve the offense more. And for A.J. Brown, I know it's just one bad game, but the timing of it is just awful. Anyway, this kind of leads into my next point. As bad as Hurts played and the amount of A.J. Brown drops, the offensive coordinating and coaching is still the biggest problem with this team. Not the only problem, but the biggest problem. You know that TikTok audio where the guy's like, Saquon up the middle, Saquon up the middle, A.J. Brown deep ball, incompletion, punt. And then that shit just repeats? It's funny, right? It's funny because it's fucking accurate. The literal first 2 plays of the game. An A.J. Brown deep ball and a Saquon run up the middle. It is so miserably fucking predictable. I randomly called out like 4 or 5 plays I thought were going to happen throughout the game, half of which I was scrolling on my phone. And I got most of them right. I haven't played organized football in over 15 years. I should not be able to accurately predict shit like this. That is why people want Kevin Patullo fired, because he fucking sucks at his job. But somehow, he still has a job. Weather reporters and Kevin Patullo. The only people to get shit wrong on a regular basis and still have a job. When someone is doing a bad job on a regular basis, they get fired. That's what happens with like almost any job, right? So why the fuck haven't we done that with Patullo yet? What the problem be? Patullo can't diversify play calls. He can't put his players into positions for them to succeed. He can't make adjustments. He can't identify deficits in a defense. What the fuck can he do? I know what he can do, and that's be a fucking problem, and the reason we're gonna piss this season away. Then you have Nick Sirianni. There are times where I love the guy, and there are times I want to be like Wile E. Coyote chasing Roadrunner and run full speed into a brick wall. This is one of those times. All fucking 9-10 days, whatever it was between week 13 and 14, we heard a shit ton about how Sirianni was going to be more involved in the offense and how there were going to be drastic changes. And now I'm out here looking like John Travolta from Pulp Fiction, looking around like, where are those drastic changes? Because I'm still seeing Saquon go up the middle 40 times a fucking game. Instead of making changes to the actual offensive play calling, there's changes in the locker room with a fucking positivity bunny, which has since been removed, but just embarrassing, man. Sirianni is more worried about vibes and being a people pleaser than winning football games right now. Now, there's nothing wrong with trying to make people happy, but if making everyone happy in the short run causes a fucking cost such as a collapse in the long run, then maybe we shouldn't look at our situation that way. Sirianni isn't prioritizing the root issues of the problem. He's just trying to put band-aids on stab wounds, essentially. He's got to get his priorities straight and think of the team as opposed to saving his own butt or pleasing people in the short run. All right, my last takeaway from this game, and I know things are getting a little heated and whatnot, but this team is playing with zero heart. One of the biggest contributions to this current 3-game collapse, and at this rate, maybe even a season collapse, is something that I don't think people are talking about as much as they should be. We talk a lot about the O-line injuries and regression, the recent bad quarterback play, the terrible offensive coaching and coordinating, but we're not taking as much time to talk about how this team is playing with zero fucking heart. You can exclude the defense from this because they've shown multiple times that they ball out and play with heart and intensity, but this offense not so much. I'm just not seeing evidence that they're playing with a purpose, you know? It looks like they're just like out doing a job or like quiet quitting or whatever they're calling it nowadays. There's barely any emotion or drive, motivation. It's just stale. It matches the play calling. For weeks now, everyone has been hoping that the Eagles find their identity, and we've still yet to see an obvious one. And that's part of the problem. If there's no sense in identity, then what is there to play for? And that lack of identity has contributed to this latest losing streak. The Birds need to find a purpose for their play if they have any hopes of making a deep run in the playoffs. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and preview this Week 15 matchup. So, after an excruciatingly difficult 3 straight losses, the Birds head back to the 215 where they will host Kenny Pickett and the Las Vegas Raiders. Yes, you heard that right. With Geno Smith unlikely to play due to injury, the Birds could face former backup quarterback Kenny Pickett in a must-win game to keep their division hopes and a slim possibility of getting the number 1 seed in the NFC. The Raiders are coming off a close loss to division rival in the Denver Broncos, where their defense was the star of the game. Birds fans, does this sound familiar? Here are a few things I think we need to do in order to pull out a win this weekend. First things first, we need our offense to run more jumbo plays or utilize Dallas Goedert, Kylan Granson, and Cam Latu more in the blocking game. I like Fred Johnson, and he's held his own against a fair share of strong edge rushers such as Trey Hendrickson and Micah Parsons. But Max Crosby lined up against Fred Johnson with the way our O-line's been playing this season, I'm not going to lie, it kind of scares me. If we don't prioritize pocket protection in this game by running more of those jumbo plays or getting tight ends more involved in blocking versus passing, Jalen Hurts is going to experience what our defense did to Justin Herbert. Next, we need to anticipate a lot of targets to Bowers, but we don't want to ostracize the other receivers. Numerous takes that I've seen so far on YouTube and social media previewing this matchup talk about how Brock Bowers is the offensive weapon without any regards for the other pass catchers. And this is fairly reasonable. Brock Bowers is the go-to guy for the Raiders getting down the field. Ashton Genty has struggled in the run game. The receiving core has not been its best. So it's fair to say that they're going to look to Brock Bowers a lot. But that doesn't mean our defense can let their guard down against their receivers of Trey Tucker, Tyler Lockett, or Jack Besh. We have to anticipate that the Raiders will expect us to provide heavy coverage on Bowers the entire time and unintentionally neglect their receiving core. We saw Trey Tucker put up 145 yards and 3 touchdowns in a single game, so anything is possible. We got to play smart, level-headed defense and not expect a predictable outcome from the Raiders offense. I'm confident in the boys up front, so I expect the guys in the secondary to play with the same level of intensity. All right, last thing I think we need to do, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, but we got to play with some damn heart. Moving forward, this team cannot play like they aren't playing for anything. Specifically the offense. You have to play like you're playing for something. The window between us and Dallas for the NFC East division is closed a lot more, just a game and a half ahead. We cannot afford to lose more games. We simply cannot. Dallas plays the Vikings, the Chargers, the Commanders, and the Giants next. That's a pretty favorable schedule for them. We have to play like we got something to play for. We cannot allow history to repeat itself. And I saw this right before I started recording this. I saw an Instagram memory of mine where I posted about an Eagles game from 2 years ago to the date. December 2023, where I posted, quote, "Where's the motivation? Where's the inspiration? Where was the desire to win? Because none of it was there tonight." We are dangerously close to another 2023-like collapse. We have many things to play for, though. We're playing to be the first repeat NFC East Division champions for the first time in over 20 years. We are playing for a slim chance at the number 1 seed in the NFC for that bye and home field advantage. We're playing to show the world that this isn't like the 2023 season. We are playing to not just get back to the Super Bowl, but to win it again. There are numerous things to play for, and this team has to fucking act like it. Time is not on our side, so we have to turn things around right now. There are only 4 games left until the postseason. This team needs this bounce back against the Raiders and moving forward for the rest of the season. But they have to fucking want it as well. All right, y'all, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or follow on Instagram, X, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok by searching at 2nd and 15 or by the full name 2nd and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast. You can also find the audio for each and every single episode releasing Thursday mornings on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Player FM, Deezer, or wherever you get your podcasts, with the video uploading to YouTube later that same day. This episode, 2nd and 15, and Old City Sports Network are brought to you by Iron and Steel Threads. Check out ironsteelthreads.com and use promo code OldCity10 for 10% off the entire website. The promo code is in the description of this episode, and a portion of proceeds will go to help youth hockey organizations, so it's a great cause all around. Check out Iron and Steel Threads today. Once again, thanks y'all for joining in. This is 2nd and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast powered by Old City Sports Network. Don't forget to check out the game Sunday afternoon at 1 p.m. on Fox. We'll see you all next week. Don't forget to stay fly like an eagle, and as always, go Birds!